You would not be able to tell what the bacteria was. It could look like any other pneumonia.
We saw a spike in Legionnaire's disease. It hasn't really been put out to the public.
It's not the thing we should expect in America.
The public has a right to be outraged. Outrage doesn't even begin to cover it.
I would certainly not bathe a newborn child or a young infant in this bad water.
What did they ever take water out of the Flint River for? Everyone knows it's a filthy river.
The blame game over the Flint, Michigan water disaster is underway.
Why would they be paying for water that they cannot even use, that is poisoning them?
It's a failure of our system.
Yeah, we're going to start with more fallout from a national disgrace. You have government pumping poison through city water pipes, and now some officials are paying for it, maybe more to come.
Yeah, lead from the Flint water system made children sick, and an outbreak of Legionnaire's disease killed a dozen people, including Nelda Hunt. And we spoke with her daughter.
So she was on this mask with the air being forced in. And she got to the point where she didn't want to eat because she couldn't breathe. It was bad.
Your mom.
I mean, eventually they'll pay. Flint, Michigan, the governor, hospitals. They'll get their rewards, or payback, I guess.
Do you feel cheated?
Yeah, because they took her out of my life way too soon.
And so prosecutors have charged 13 people, including emergency managers, for their role in causing this water scandal.
And so tonight we want to start by showing you how it all came to this with a look back from Charlie LeDuff.
Flint, Michigan, the birthplace of General Motors and the UAW and Mass Credit. There was plenty of money and plenty of work, and the Flint River grew so toxic it was said you could clean brass with it. Flint was rich. It didn't need the river. It could afford to ship its water from Detroit, 70 miles away. But then Flint's jobs went to Mexico, and Flint went broke. And then 2 years ago, in order to save some money, the governor and his men ordered the people who were left to drink from the river.
You are trying to kill my kids. Really? Don't get me wrong. I'm a very loving person, but you're doing things to hurt my children.
Today, the children of Flint have elevated levels of lead in their blood. 10 adults have died from a waterborne virus. The main suspect there, the Flint River. And this whole time, the government, which is supposed to look out for the citizens, told no one. How could this be in America?
We're going to build the Michigan back that we had before, but even better.
A few years ago, Republican Governor Rick Snyder stripped Flint's elected officials of their power and placed it in the hands of an emergency financial manager. The manager ordered Flint to leave Detroit's water and join a new, cheaper water system. But that new system wouldn't be ready for 2 years. So in the meantime, to save a few $million, the people of Flint would drink from the toilet.
I wouldn't even feed this to my dog. It's freaking ridiculous.
State Treasurer Andy Dillon made the final call then. But now on the hot seat, the governor's men tried to weasel around that fact.
Governor Rick Snyder releasing his emails regarding the Flint water crisis. Vice 2 combing through those emails, most of which...
Flint's elected leaders, with no real power, rubber-stamped the water idea.
The Flint community was betrayed. We had every reason to expect that the water we were drinking was being treated under the Safe Drinking Water Act. Communities all across this country have water sources from all over the place. It all has to be treated the same. That's what we were told. That's what I shared with the public when I was asked, because that's what I was understanding at the time. So I was out there, city council members, other city staff, and then we get the admission from the governor that the state didn't follow the Safe Drinking Water Act. The corrosion controls weren't in place.
I cut down their bath, times I give them a bath a week. Very minimal because of the rashes and the spots that pop up on them. And I think all of her hair is falling out.
Now Flint's aging pipes are corroded, and lead from them is leaching into the tap water. Governor Snyder has taken responsibility to a point.
Flint's poor. It's majority black. They feel like you've abandoned them. Is this your Katrina?
Well, if you look at it, this is a disaster. I mean, this is something that I had people that worked for me, to be blunt, that let all of us down. But I'm responsible, so I'm not trying to get out of that. You have to be responsible for these things. I'm taking responsibility, but I want to fix the problem.
Lead poisoning aside, how could the governor not have known the water was unfit for a pig? From the beginning, the warning signs were there. The river water was contaminated with fecal matter. Citizens were told to boil it. Authorities poured in so much chlorine to kill the bacteria, they created a toxic bomb harmful to infants and elderly. General Motors said the water was corroding its parts. Flint citizens, however, were given no choice but to continue bathing in it.
This started coming out about a year or so ago. My teeth had started falling out a year. These right here, I'm going to Dennis and Davis. These right here, all these of them fell out.
It's now been unearthed that the Federal Environmental Protection Agency and the State Department of Environmental Quality knew there were potentially dangerous levels of lead in Flint's water. First they were silent, and then they denied it.
I'm with DEQ.
Oh, you are? Are you Sean?
No, I'm Brent Workman.
Let me start here. Anyone who is concerned about lead in the drinking water in Flint can relax. There is no broad problem right now that we've seen with lead in the drinking water in Flint.
Residents were blown off for 19 months until independent tests by a scientist and a doctor confirmed the dangerous levels of lead. And only then, in October, nearly 2 years later, did the governor acknowledge that Flint had a water crisis. The price to fix it could run into the billions. The health effects in children? Unknown.
Would you have your grandchildren bathe daily in that water coming out of those pipes now?
Yeah.
You would?
Yeah, because again, that's the advice I've gotten. The people of Flint have been harmed. I feel awful about this.
We all feel awful, because in the end, we all failed the people of Flint. The governor, the bureaucrats, big business, politicians, the media. The cries from Flint were loud and clear, and we stood mute. No one, rich or poor, deserves that in America.
Now, prosecutors may still charge others. Meanwhile, the water of Flint is still contaminated, and it will cost billions of tax dollars to fix. Coming up, we'll show you how the Trump administration will change our energy policy and what it means for jobs and the environment.
And then later in our humor segment, since the movie Rogue One is such a hit, we'll show you how Star Wars relates to politics. Okay, so critics say that President-elect Trump has no mandate to lead because he lost the popular vote by nearly 3 million votes while winning the Electoral College.
Yeah, but now Trump is claiming he would also have won the popular vote if he wanted to. He tweeted today, "I would have done even better in the election if that is possible, if the winner was based on the popular vote, but would campaign differently. I have not heard any of the pundits or commentators discussing the fact that I spent far less money on the win than Hillary on the loss."
So translation here, Trump claims that he could have in fact won the popular vote had he campaigned more in the big cities across the nation, but instead he focused on winning states that maybe did not have as many people, but have enough votes, just enough in the Electoral College to tip the scale.
And that's important to him because it's part of his case that he does in fact have a mandate to lead, and he's focused on the war on terror.
Yeah, very interesting response to the Berlin attacks on Monday. Trump said Islamic State and other Islamic terrorists continually slaughter Christians. As part of their global jihad. And he said that before investigators concluded who committed the attacks this week, and a reporter asked him to address that.
Your comments about the truck attack in Berlin being against Christians, do you think that this might...
Say it again, what?
The attack in Berlin being an attack against Christians?
Well, who said that? When was that said?
I believe you said it in a press release.
Yeah.
So wondering how this might affect relations with Muslims?
An attack on humanity. That's what it is. It's an attack on humanity. And it's got to be stopped. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Trump is also planning some big changes in America's energy policy, and William Lajeunesse shows us what's at stake.
Fire.
It's not just the coal itself, it's the downstream value of that to our economy, to our people, to our community.
Hotchkiss, Colorado calls itself the friendliest town around. It's anything but for the coal industry.
Well, this is empty. Yeah, this used to be a quilt store. This is Pastime's Friendly Tavern. It closed just this year.
Mayor Wendell Kuhn saw 2 mines and 1,200 jobs die in 1 year.
For every 1 job at the mine, they estimate there's 5 to 7 jobs down valley.
The shutdown of a lot of the coal-fired plants and the loss of market is due to regulations that have restricted emissions from coal-fired plants.
Under my presidency, we'll accomplish a complete American energy independence. Complete.
To do that, President-elect Trump promises to lift the moratorium on new coal leases, support offshore oil drilling, and open federal lands to fracking oil and gas.
I am excited and I am nervous at the same time because it's not going to be as easy as some people think.
And that's because Trump can't simply unwind the Clean Power Plan and the Paris Agreement, which restrict U.S. carbon emissions.
I expect a whole lot of legal challenges to almost everything.
Again, that was William Lajeunesse reporting. Well, tonight we have a new poll that shows how the holidays could get a little feisty this year.
Yeah, they surely could. Let's start with Doug Luzader, who broke down the numbers.
You're Hispanic. You don't deserve to be in America.
You could be this woman over Christmas, still harboring genuine anger after a bruising election year. And even if you don't go that far, you'd be in plenty of company if you're unhappy and showing it. A new Fox News poll shows that almost exactly half of us, 51%, report having had arguments with friends and family over the results of last month's election.
We are going to say Merry Christmas again. Merry Christmas. So Merry Christmas, Evan. Happy New Year, but Merry Christmas.
And President-elect Donald Trump railing against holiday correctness, emphasizing Christmas. But that probably won't be enough to bring us together. And there are plenty of Trump and Clinton voters who still seem to be angry toward one another. About a third of Trump voters say no, they do not respect Clinton voters. And Clinton voters are even less forgiving. 45% say they don't respect Trump voters. So how will that translate over Christmas weekend get-togethers? Only 18% of voters describe America as a tight-knit family. 77% say we're a dysfunctional family. So should conversations over the coming days turn to politics, consider this advice.
The other thing is that if among the family things get a little out of control, it's very easy to switch gears. Hey guys, it's time for some pie. Let's move on to dessert.
And look, we did that. We did that, literally. We deflected by talking dessert.
I do remember that, and we made a step-by-step guide on how to avoid talking politics over the holidays.
Yeah, and please watch it in the humor section of our YouTube channel. Search for Craig Patrick's Money, Power, and Politics, and click subscribe at the top of the page if you have not already. You can also catch up on any prior shows that you may have missed.
And coming up, we'll show you how the story of Star Wars is playing out in theaters and in Washington politics after the break.
And Marissa, you've seen the new Star Wars movie, right?
No, I have not.
Oh, okay. Well, here's a little primer here that relates our politics to the story of Star Wars.
What's going to become of this galactic republic?
Hopefully good things in the future.
And in a way, the story of Star Wars mirrors America's story. Both launched as revolutionary experiments, took off with a combination of imagination and innovation the world had never seen, then got bogged down in politics. And at least until J.J. Abrams took over, it just got silly.
The Empire
will strike back.
Well, Ted Cruz gets Star Wars like most children of the 80s, which incidentally puts him a step above Marco Rubio, who must have spent the 80s on another planet.
I think I had the Death Star, but it kept breaking, just like it did in Part 2. And Empire Strikes Back, when it blew up because the guy got that rocket to go into that hole, remember that?
No, the Death Star did not blow up in Empire Strikes Back.
That was my favorite.
But while politicians on both sides try to relate to Star Wars, they see it in two very different ways. For example, to hear Democrats tell it, the last Republican administration was a team of Sith Lords with an apprentice and his master behind the scenes, leading us into a trumped-up war. Democrats say they elected Obama as the new hope, a guardian of peace and justice, seeking change in troubled times. But to hear Republicans tell it, President Obama was that charming senator who transformed into the emperor before their very eyes.
I believe in the Constitution and I will obey the Constitution of the United States. Believe me, the idea of doing things on my own is very tempting.
I should somehow, do a Jedi mind meld.
Wherever and whenever I can take steps without legislation, that's what I'm going to do.
I really want Congress to do its job, the constitutional power that they have to halt an imperial presidency.
But while Obama did overstep his authority with recess appointments to the Senate and arguably more than that, despite what Republicans say, he's not the emperor.
I'm not the emperor of the United States.
And his own struggles just to govern prove that.
And since I'm in charge, obviously we screwed it up.
Democrats thought the Bush administration led from the dark side, and they think the same now about President-elect Trump. As for Ted Cruz, well, he could deliver the biggest surprise of all.
Mike Lee, I am your father.
Nope, that was great though. Coming up, our predictions for 2017 and how they'll affect Tampa Bay.
Okay, here's my prediction for the night. Trump is going to pick a healthcare executive, Toby Cosgrove, to lead the VA.
Okay, and a USA Today poll says 62% of Democrats and independents, they don't want Hillary Clinton in 2020. Is she actually going to run again?
Which leads me to my second prediction. They're going to get their wish. That's our show tonight, folks. We'll see you tomorrow night. Take care.